24 hours. That is all the time left before the most consequential diplomatic meeting of this war. And this morning, the President of the United States used 3 words that should stop every American cold. He said the ceasefire is on massive life support. Not struggling, not fragile, life support. And his own aides are now more seriously considering a full resumption of combat than at any point since the guns went quiet. This is day 73 of the Iran war. And tonight, everything is converging at once in a way that has not happened before. If you want to understand exactly what is at stake in the next 48 hours, stay with this, because by the end, you will know something most Americans do not. Drop your answer in the comments right now. Do you think the Beijing summit tomorrow saves this ceasefire or buries it? Every comment is read. The sharpest analysis gets featured. Let's start with what happened today, because today alone should be a headline on every channel in America, and it is not getting the attention it deserves. On the same morning that Trump's aides confirmed they are more seriously weighing a return to major combat operations, the United States imposed brand new sanctions targeting Iranian nuclear research with possible military dimensions. Sanctions. Today. The same day the ceasefire is on life support. The same day before the Beijing summit that every diplomat, every regional analyst, and every prediction market has identified as the last realistic off-ramp before this war either finds a path to settlement or escalates into something significantly larger and more dangerous than what came before. The pressure track and the diplomatic track are not running one after the other. They are running at the exact same time. Sanctions today, summit tomorrow, ceasefire dying. Now, here is something that has not been communicated with the clarity it deserves. And when you hear this number, you will understand why this war is no longer just a foreign policy story. It is a kitchen table story. Brown University's Iran War Energy Cost Tracker has now calculated that American consumers have absorbed a $37 billion hit from the spike in gasoline and diesel prices since this war began on February 28th. That is $284 per household. The price of gasoline has gone from $2.98 a gallon when the first strike happened to $4.52 as of Monday. And diesel, the fuel that moves American food from farms to grocery stores, that powers the trains carrying goods to ports, that runs the equipment on the farms growing American crops, is now sitting just 18 cents below its all-time record high. The ceasefire that is on massive life support has not reopened the Strait of Hormuz. Not one barrel of oil is flowing through that choke point under any proposal currently on the table. $284 per household. $37 billion total. And the war still has no end date. Share this right now, because the $284 number is not being reported anywhere near clearly enough, and the people around you deserve to know it. So what is Trump's solution to the $37 billion cost of his own war? He is asking Congress to suspend the federal gas tax. The same Congress that has rejected every war powers resolution on this conflict. The same Congress that has not formally authorized a war now in its 73rd day. The same Congress that has, in every prior period of elevated energy prices, declined to suspend that tax. The federal gas tax is 18.4 cents per gallon on gasoline and 24.4 cents on diesel. Suspending it would require an act of Congress. And the very lawmakers Trump needs to pass that suspension are the same ones who have refused to authorize the war that caused the price spike in the first place. That contradiction is not a talking point. That is the documented legislative reality of where this war stands today. Now, here is where it gets complicated in a way nobody is explaining clearly. Iran submitted a counterproposal through Pakistani mediators. Trump called it totally unacceptable. Iran called it reasonable and generous. Both descriptions are accurate from their own perspective. Iran's proposal demands recognition of its sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz, compensation for war damages, the release of frozen Iranian assets, the lifting of sanctions, and an end to fighting across all fronts, including Lebanon. What is conspicuously absent from that entire document? Any mention of the nuclear program, not one word. Iran's position, confirmed by every Iranian official from the supreme leader down, is that nuclear discussions belong in a final stage, after the war ends, in what they call a more conducive atmosphere. America's one-page framework demands a 12-year enrichment moratorium as a starting condition. Iran's proposal doesn't acknowledge enrichment at all. These two documents are not close to each other. They are not in the same negotiating zip code. And now the twist that almost nobody is covering. Inside Iran, a small but influential ultra-hardline faction is actively working to destroy any chance of a deal. Not because they think a deal would be bad for Iran, but because they believe Iran can only secure favorable terms by defeating the United States outright. This faction shares Trump's view that the 2015 nuclear agreement was a mistake, but for diametrically opposite reasons. Iran's own government has tried and failed to appease them. And every day the ceasefire wobbles on life support. Every day $4.52 gasoline reminds Americans the war is real. This faction grows stronger inside Iran's domestic political conversation. The longer the ceasefire survives without resolution, the more ammunition the ultra-hardliners have to argue that negotiation is surrender. Which brings us to Beijing. Tomorrow, Donald Trump lands for a summit with Xi Jinping that the entire diplomatic world has been positioning toward since Iran's foreign minister flew to China 6 days ago. The American ask is specific. Use China's enormous economic leverage over Iran to push Tehran toward nuclear concessions. But this morning, on the eve of that summit, the Trump administration sanctioned 12 additional Chinese companies and individuals for facilitating the sale and shipment of Iranian oil to China. 12 more, the day before asking China's president for help. Trump is sanctioning China's businesses while asking China's leader for a favor simultaneously in the same 48-hour window. That is not a contradiction. That is the deliberate American two-track strategy, economic pressure and diplomatic engagement running in parallel. But it creates a negotiating environment that is extraordinarily difficult to navigate. And the clock is ticking. American intelligence has also assessed that China was preparing to deliver new air defense systems to Iran. That assessment is sitting on the table as Trump boards the plane. There is one more constraint that makes tomorrow's summit even harder than it already looks. On May 14th, the day of the Beijing summit itself, 52 United States senators and 177 members of Congress sent a letter to Trump stating they will reject any deal that allows Iran to continue uranium enrichment in any form. 52 senators, before the summit even begins. Iran's counterproposal has zero nuclear language. America's framework requires a 12-year moratorium. The diplomatic landing zone that multiple analysts have floated, somewhere between 12 and 15 years, is rejected before Trump sits down with Xi by more than half the United States Senate. Whatever comes out of Beijing tomorrow must somehow satisfy a Congress requiring zero enrichment, an Iran requiring sequential nuclear discussions, and a Trump requiring enough to call it a win. That is not a difficult equation. That is a near impossible one. And yet every actor in this war is behaving as if tomorrow changes everything. Here is the full inventory of where this war stands on day 73. The ceasefire is on massive life support. Resumed combat is more seriously being considered by Trump's own aides than at any point since the pause began. New nuclear sanctions were imposed today. New sanctions on 12 Chinese entities were imposed today. Iran's counterproposal has no nuclear language. America's framework requires a 12-year moratorium. 52 senators preemptively rejected any enrichment deal. American households have absorbed $284 each in energy costs since February 28th. Diesel is 18 cents from its all-time record. The Strait of Hormuz is closed under every proposal currently on the table. The ultra-hardline faction inside Iran is gaining strength with every day of unresolved ceasefire. And Trump's solution is to ask the Congress that won't authorize his war to suspend the gas tax that funds the roads the near-record cost diesel trucks drive on. The summit that was supposed to change all of this begins in less than 24 hours. We track every verified number, every confirmed quote, and every real development on this war every single day. Not weekly, every day. If you are not subscribed yet, do it now. Because what comes out of Beijing in the next 48 hours will define whether day 74 looks like a ceasefire or a resumption. And you will want to be here when it breaks. Now answer these 3 questions below. Your analysis matters, and the best responses get featured. Question A. Trump's aides are more seriously considering resumed combat. New nuclear sanctions landed today. 52 senators have preemptively rejected enrichment. Iran's counterproposal has no nuclear language. If the Beijing summit produces a Chinese commitment to pressure Iran, and Iran still defers nuclear talks to a final stage, what specific diplomatic formulation satisfies a Congress demanding zero enrichment, an Iran demanding sequencing, and a Trump needing a win he can name? Question B. Brown University's tracker shows $37 billion in household energy costs and $284 per household since February 28th. Diesel is 18 cents from its record. The Strait of Hormuz is closed under every current proposal. If the Beijing summit fails to move the needle and resumed combat becomes operational, what does the tracker show on day 100? And at what specific gasoline price does a 32% war approval rating and a Republican House majority of 4 seats become an electoral emergency? Question C. China buys 80% of Iran's exported oil. China's Commerce Ministry has invoked its anti-sanctions law to defy American Iran pressure. American intelligence says China was preparing to deliver air defense systems to Iran. 12 Chinese entities were sanctioned this morning, hours before Trump asks Xi for help pressuring Iran. If China agrees to pressure Iran toward nuclear concessions, what does China ask for in return? And is there any combination of American concessions to China that does not either weaken American pressure on Iran or weaken American competition with China?